Muse of Blood. One with influence over blood or through blood. A Muse of Blood would be the type of person who has a lot of influence over people. Whether it be a position of power or through a truly magnetic personality, one thing is for sure, they know how people tick and they know exactly how to get people to do what they want. How they use this intrinsic ability to lead people is fully up to the Muse, but when it's used for good, the ripple can be felt by everyone involved. On the ability side of things, a Muse of Blood would be essentially able to sit on high and maneuver troops however they please, able to give commands to battalions of allies and enemies alike to raise whatever the Muse demands. That is, if the Muse had any enemies at all. The real strength of the Muse of Blood would come by them being able to be a true neutral party. Their ability to influence bonds with would-be enemies and opposition would be absolute, causing anyone that sees them as opposition to just view them as an ally whenever they decide. No matter how the Muse may be truly feeling in the moment, what really matters is that no one would really want to hurt their friend in that way. Whatever the case may be, the Muse of Blood is an easy contender for strongest master class around, because in a fight, nothing wins more simply than just not being an enemy in the first place. Maid of Blood. One who serves blood. A Maid of Blood would be someone who always has other people's best interests at heart. They strive to be this connective tissue of a social situation, always connecting people from various corners of their life together. Because of this, they can operate amazingly as that one friend in charge of everyone else whenever a leader is needed. They have the kind of natural magnetism to make it work well. On the ability side of things, a Maid of Blood would be a natural team player. They would excel at keeping the party together and synced up, being almost a de facto leader in most scenarios, and would be able to provide a sort of link between their session, allowing for any buffs bestowed by one person to affect everyone equally. In addition to some light healing abilities, this would make a Maid of Blood one of the most effective group-based Classpects to have for any situation. Whatever the case may be, the Maid of Blood is an incredibly strong Classpect when it comes to team play, and as long as they're surrounded by people who understand that, then there's nothing that can stop them as a group. Lord of Blood. One with complete control over blood. A Lord of Blood would be someone who's a master at interpersonal relationships. They know how people tick, and if needed, they could create a connection with nearly anyone to achieve their goals. Because of this and the natural magnetism they hold, a Lord of Blood would be more often than not a group leader with a wide and deep network of people in their pocket. On the ability side of things, a Lord of Blood would be a master of many different things, having dominion over the physicality of blood being one of their biggest boons. They would be able to control massive legions by manipulating their blood directly, very similar to bloodbending from Avatar: The Last Airbender. However, if we take the concept of blood to an even further extent, a Lord of Blood could be made even deadlier. When you take into account blood being the aspect of bonds, by that logic, a Lord of Blood would also be able to affect the bonds of almost any item, more specifically, atoms. So in theory, a Lord of Blood could tear nearly anything apart on a fundamental level, and there's really not much anyone could do about it. Whatever the case may be, the Lord of Blood has an insane ceiling for what's truly possible with it, even if it takes a lifetime to truly connect with it. Rogue of Blood. One who redistributes blood. A Rogue of Blood would be someone with an impressive relationship-focused mindset. They're able to meet new people and make friends at an almost unprecedented rate, walking their way into almost any social situation and finding a way to walk out on positive terms with at least someone. Because of this, they're usually the brains of the group, always thinking through things for the people around them to ensure everyone is safe and happy. On the ability side of things, a Rogue of Blood can actually have a lot of very interesting powers depending on the situation. The usual application of swaying enemies to their side would be a given in most situations. However, the real application of a Rogue of Blood would come when used against trolls specifically, allowing the rogue to take and pass around certain traits tied to blood color. For example, a Violet Sea Dweller with the psychic ability of Rust Blood, or even a bronze-blooded troll becoming a Rainbow Drinker. This would allow for all sorts of chaos to ensue in troll-based sessions. Whatever the case may be, the Rogue of Blood have a ton of potential under the surface, and as long as they have a good circle of people around them, that's an easy road to their potential. Bard of Blood. one who invites destruction through blood or using blood. A Bard of Blood would be someone with a wide reach and influence. They know a lot of people, and a lot of those people are incredibly close to the Bard, giving them an excellent support system. Because they're so locked in with their community, they can naturally rise to the top of social circles as someone people will tend to gravitate towards, and honestly, not being their friend can seem like a bit of a missed opportunity from the outside. But due to this mingling of friend groups of various peoples, friend groups can tend to get out of control very fast and very toxic if not dealt with in a proper way. On the ability side of things, a Bard of Blood would be an extremely unorthodox combatant, turning enemies into allies by forming bonds with them, and then using those allies to fight for them. Depending on the strength of the bond of their allies, their attack power would increase similarly, giving them an incredible strength and numbers sort of approach to situations. And with enough finesse and time, a Bard of Blood could establish a massive band of allies to chart on any opponent they may need to crush. Whatever the case may be, the Bard of Blood is a social butterfly with the power to move mountains so long as they have people with them when they need it. Knight of Blood, one who protects blood or protects through blood. The Knight of Blood is a canon Classpect held by Karkat Vantis, and as a result, we know a lot more about it. A Knight of Blood would tend to be someone who deeply values their friends but may have some trouble getting there with many people. Due to Knights commonly having a sort of mask they hide their insecurities behind, a lack of confidence in their social abilities would be the Knight of Bloods. If they're able to do the work though, then they can become amazing leaders and bastions of respite for their friends. They care deeply and fight hard to protect it. On the ability side of things, a Knight of Blood would excel as a leader. Being able to bring a session together and keep them working like a finely tuned machine would be as natural to them as breathing, and empowering their allies would be their main strength. A strength in numbers approach is what would empower the Knight's abilities the most, able to convert enemies to allies by showing off their prowess and maintaining bonds, or perhaps when push comes to shove, even weaponizing the physical aspect of blood if needed. Whatever the case may be, the Knight of Blood is a versatile and potent support class for any suburb session to have. Trusting their leadership and domination over the game will be well within reach. Witch of Blood, one who manipulates blood. A Witch of Blood would be the kind of person with potential to be a master manipulator. Whether it be from the shadows or in public, they have a lot of influence over various types of people and know how to use it well. This doesn't mean that it has to be for purely bad or selfish purposes though. Being able to easily move groups of different people towards a common goal is their true strength, and if used correctly, they're a valuable asset to anyone. On the ability side of things, a Witch of Blood would be a scary combatant to go against. They would be akin to a puppet master, easily able to control and influence anyone around them. Thanks to the more active nature of the Witch, they would easily be able to use physical blood as a means of attacking or manipulating enemies as well, similar to bloodbending from Avatar: The Last Airbender. They would also be able to easily bend and sway allegiances of anyone they see fit to bolster their numbers in a fight, or even use blood like voodoo for rituals. This one can get really witchy really fast. Whatever the case may be, the Witch of Blood can be very polarizing in its application, so it's up to the witch to find the line they need to walk between. Page of Blood, one who preserves blood. A Page of Blood would be something akin to a fledgling socialite. They may happen to have a ton of interesting and varied connections, but have a hard time remembering to reach out to them or checking in. As pages are characterized by the journey they undertake, a Page of Blood's journey would be one of togetherness, learning to trust in the network they've built and use every aspect of those closest to them to grow to newer heights, while still taking care of those around them. On the ability side of things, a Page of Blood would have a very interesting power set. They would be able to have a sort of long-range friend danger sense, being able to tell if someone they've bonded to is in trouble, and when they need support. This allows them to have an interesting role as a combat tactician, commanding an army of allies that they've made along the way to fight whatever threats they may face. Their friends are their power in a very real sense here. Whatever the case may be, while the Page of Blood has a long journey ahead of them, they don't have to do it alone. Prince of Blood, one who destroys blood or destroys through blood. A Prince of Blood would be someone who craves independence. They don't love being tied down by people, and as such, they try to do whatever they can to break free from the things that bind them to their life, to allow them to live comfortably. That doesn't mean they dislike other people, of course, but they can just tend to have closer relationships from a distance and don't need to constantly be checking in with friends and family to feel a bond there. On the ability side of things is when a Prince of Blood can get kinda crazy. Being able to essentially bloodbend targets is a pretty crazy ability already, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. They would also be able to destroy bonds, like all bonds. They could go from toppling an empire one day to escaping from handcuffs the next because they just straight up disassembled them. This escape artistry would allow them to be a really versatile player in most situations, even if they didn't really have a good way of putting everything back together. Whatever the case may be, a Prince of Blood evidently has a ton of potential for growth, even if they prefer to do it alone sometimes. Mage of Blood. One who knows blood and is haunted by it. A Mage of Blood would be someone who knows everyone. Like, they're so tapped into people around them, you wonder how they even have time to meet all these people. They can fit into almost any group dynamic and configuration with relative ease, but it's a sort of jack of all trades and master of none situation. Sure, they know a lot of people, but the amount of people they have truly close bonds with is pretty small and hard to maintain, or it's kept small on purpose so it's less people they have to perform for. On the ability side of things, a Mage of Blood would be a master manipulator, able to take the physicality of blood and bend it to their will while knowing exactly what to say to sway bonds to their side, pacifying opposition with just a few words. Let them talk for long enough and they may walk out of almost any encounter with a new ally at their side and a plan hatched for mutual gain. Whatever the case may be, the Mage of Blood has a ton of potential to inspire change, the gift of gab being their strongest weapon. Sylph of Blood. One who fixes blood or fixes through blood. A Sylph of Blood would be someone easy to get along with. Talking with them is like talking to an old friend even if you've just met them, and they usually tend not to have much trouble making friends in the first place. Because they're such a comfy person to be around, people tend to tell them a lot of what's going on with them, knowing that the Sylph is usually pretty good at giving advice, or at least they know they won't be judged for what they say. They tend to have solid familial relationships as well, whether it be the family they were born into or a deep adoration of found family. They excel at solving interpersonal relationships, and as such, they really don't tend to have much beef with other people, which really leads them to being a very friendly and open Classpect. On the ability side of things, a Sylph of Blood would be able to fool enemies quite easily as they would operate as pretty traditional healers. Thanks to the blood aspect being able to be taken pretty literally, it would mean that fixing wounds and injuries big and small wouldn't really be an issue for a Sylph of Blood, though it may not be as wholly effective as a life player. Aside from that, there would be the party mediator, able to mend the relationship between members effortlessly, making sure everyone is kept on track and working as a cohesive team all the time. Whatever the case may be, a Sylph of Blood has serious leader potential for any session that has one included, and even if they weren't the leader, they would still make sure everyone was made to feel important. Thief of Blood. One who steals blood or steals through blood. A Thief of Blood would be someone a bit jealous, though they hate admitting it or don't see it that way entirely. Left unchecked, this can tend to monopolize time with others, wanting to be the main person someone or a large group of people are hanging out with, just to feel included. A fear of isolation would be their main fear, and as such, they would do what they can to mitigate that, even if it means being a little bit tight on their grip with others. But when they're content and happy, they're willing to do anything to keep their bond safe, not afraid to cut deep and draw blood from any would-be aggressor. On the ability side of things, a Thief of Blood has some interesting applications. They would work well as an undercover agent, going behind enemy lines and tearing them apart from the inside and gaining allies along the way. Their influence would range from a natural magnetism of those around them, causing them to join their side, and even some mind control-like abilities, forcing others to have an unquestionably close connection to them. Whatever the case may be, a Thief of Blood has a lot of possibilities in store for them. If they can fight past their feelings, then a fierce ally is lying just below the surface. Seer of Blood. One who sees blood or sees through blood. A Seer of Blood is the canon Classpect, held by King Crevantis, and as such we're able to glean some more insights about the nature of the pairing. A Seer of Blood would be someone who's tapped into what's going on, observant and accommodating. Seer of Blood have an innate sense that can lead them to try to read people and thus try to get along with everyone. They're the mom friend, ensuring their close bonds are kept safe and sound at all times, but like some parents, they can tend to come off as suffocating if left unchecked. On the ability side of things, a Seer of Blood would be the vital information gatherer, able to track down people by seeing a trail of where they previously were, or even seeing through other people's eyes remotely. Because of this, escaping them would prove to be a difficult feat. Their network of connections may be large and open, allowing for more information to be gained in a kind of strength in numbers kind of way. Whatever the case may be, A Seer of Blood's abilities are easily acknowledged and very handy to have around as a mediator for when things get a little too hot to handle. Heir of Blood. 1. Protected by blood. An Heir of Blood would be undeniably magnetic in some way, able to gain friends quickly and win people over to their side naturally. Family and friends alike would be a big source of inspiration for an Heir of Blood, whether that be making more of them or making sure the ones they have are doing well. This of course lends them to being fantastic leaders, able to ensure everyone works together well and making a safe space for anyone involved. On the ability side of things, an Heir of Blood would be a monster in a team fight. The power of all involved would go stronger the more allies they had on their side, really giving credence to strength in numbers. The more bonds an Heir of Blood has, the stronger they all are together, and embracing that connection would serve as a powerful declaration of camaraderie amongst them. Whatever the case may be, an Heir of Blood is a powerful team player and leader. Get behind them and they will do all they can to ensure the ranks are locked in and ready for any confrontation.